Oi! Yes! Here we go. First balls deep breakdown of the week, you guys. UFC Vegas 44. We're going to have Claudio Puelles fighting against Chris Greutzemacher this Saturday. Can't wait for this fight. I have a bet on this fight, and I want to go through all the statistics here with you guys. Last night, did a 2 hour just the tip going through all 15 fights on this card, man. It's crazy when you got 15 fights. There's a lot of research to do, a lot of work to do. So today, I'll be doing this one here. This ball's deep breakdown for Puelles Greutzemacher, and then I'll be doing tonight at 10 o'clock. I'll be doing the Jimmy Crute versus Jamal Hill fight. Should be a good one. That's another good fight, a good stylistic matchup. And I think what both of these fights have in common is they really are the striker versus grappler variety type of fights here. You kind of got to feel like if Puelles and Crute get the grappling going, that they'll be really good. And that if Greutzemacher and Jamal Hill can keep the fight standing and keep this, where they're most comfortable, that they're going to be looking really good. So want to go into the stats for both of these. But today, right now, the order of business that we'll be handling on Balls Deep Breakdown with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, is going to be the Claudio Puelles, the young man, 25-year-old man out of Sanford MMA, fighting against Chris Greutzemacher, who's training out in the forest like Jerry Prochaska or some shit, somewhere in North Carolina. So, yeah, great fight, you guys. Let's see what you guys are saying in here in the chat. We've got JP62 saying, can't wait for this. Thank you for hanging out, JP. I appreciate it. We got Jeffrey Korngold saying, just caught up and I saw you used to work at Lou's. I also used to drive for them right after college. Yeah, it's one of the great places to work when, a great part-time job. They got, it's good people over there. It's damn good pizza, man. They just sold to a private equity. I heard that. Yeah, I know that they had taken on some investors back when I was there about 7 years ago. And they gave a bunch of people, a bunch of employees that have been working there a good amount of money, if I remember correctly. And yeah, they were good. I mean, the pizza's always been fantastic. And, I'm good for the Malnati family. If they sold out to a private equity, man, they're probably hooked up with generational wealth now, because it is one of the, that business, man, the way they run those businesses, it is amazing how many pizzas they get coming out of those places, man. They are very, very good at what they do. So great place to work. Thank you for hanging out, Jeffrey. I appreciate it, man. We got Eric Cote saying, let's go Puelles. And we got Jack Attack saying, oi, oi, what's up, Jack Attack? Thanks for hanging out, man. My guy Dan Goldstein in the room saying 15 fight cards are always more penetrative than just the tip, and I'm here for all of it. Yeah, they really are, man. You can't really go just the tip on all 15. It takes 2 fucking hours. And then we want to go balls deep on 2 different fights. We're still leaving 13 out there that are unexamined by your Uncle Weezy. But we do have one more, the main event, Aldo versus Font, that I did the full event breakdown for that one, or for the full fight breakdown for that one on DFS by the Numbers channel. That main event breakdown, the link to that is in the description. The link to all the stats you're going to see today is in the description. The link to Stat Diggers, which DFS and by the Numbers and I did on Sunday night, is in there. And the link to the Pub Sports Radio DraftKings show is also in the description to this video. Appreciate all you guys for hanging out. Always good to have you, Dan, hanging out with us. I appreciate it. JSJ saying, what's up, Weezy? Hope we end the year strong. And I hope we do too, man. We got to find some spots on these cards. This is one of the spots that I did identify, and I wanted to do a balls deep breakdown on this one. Watch all the tape and really go deep into this one with you guys. See if we can find a way to make some money here. We got Nandalal Razaya saying Jacques Tits kind of fight guard. Yeah, it really kind of is. There's some geometry here. There's some mathematics. And when we get it right, using time-tested methods like the Tits Alternative and Tits Buildings, we can absolutely find ways to make money on this card. JSJ saying Greasy 4-leg parlay this week. The link to my Twitter is in the description, and I put out a 4-leg just the tip parlay on Twitter today. If you're wondering what that is, you can check that out on Twitter, or I could tell you right now, JSJ, because you're a good friend of mine and a good friend of the show. So I've got 3 money lines and 1 fight doesn't go to decision on that greasy four-legger, JSJ. It's going to be the Louis Smolka money line, the Leonardo Santos money line, who is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week this week, the Alonzo Menafield money line, and the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight right here, which is actually plus 135 right now on Bet Online, I believe. That is the four-leg parlay, and that is coming out on FanDuel at plus 8 something, plus 818 or something like that, I think. And it's one of those ones that's eligible for insurance. So if one of the legs doesn't cash, you'll get a free bet up to $25 in the amount that you throw on the parlay. So yeah, that's going to be the four-leg parlay for this week. And I'll be posting those on Twitter. I just want to do them a little bit later in the week because usually by the time I do just the tip on Tuesday night, I've just looked into every single fight on the card and haven't really went through and picked out all the best bets yet. So it's a lot of work to do a full card breakdown every week. And then when you do it with 15 fights and add 2 of those 15 fights, like 24 hours before the show, it makes for a lot of work. But that's how I'm going to be doing it from now on, JSJ. Thanks for hanging out. Jack Attack saying, I hear Grits has been at Moreno BJJ the last 12 weeks. Will it be enough time, though? Yeah, I did not hear that. I appreciate that. I still got him at Ronin Sports Performance Center, but it's hard for me to find where these guys are training. And when you're trying to scrape up 77 other stats on somebody, the Instagram stalking that it takes in order to find where these guys are training can be a pain in the ass sometimes. So I always appreciate it when we do these balls deep breakdowns and guys like Jack Attack give me that information without me having to go seek it out. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know what's up with Grits. People have been talking about like that. He's kind of a nomad anyway, and yeah, he might have been training his jiu-jitsu, but yeah, 12 weeks probably isn't going to be enough when you're talking about a guy like Puelles who's got a lot of ways to attack. And we've seen Grits kind of be a little bit, I would say, a little bit deficient in protecting his neck when it goes to the ground. And Jeffrey Korengold saying, I worked there about 6 years ago. Yeah, they got that Dick Portillo check and they bounced. And that's how it works, man. Sometimes somebody's willing to give you so much for what you created that you're willing to just walk away from it. But in order to walk away from it, it has to hurt to put that much of your heart and soul into a business and then give it away to someone else and then watch them just kind of try to drain every last penny out of it instead of, doing what you did as the owner of the family business. I grew up in a family business, being of Greek descent. Most of us grew up in a restaurant, and I'm one of the people that did. And, when you watch how much work goes into building a family business, you understand why in order to sell out a business like that you're probably not willing to take just anything. And I'm sure the Malnati's are going to be doing very well for generations off the money they sold that business to. Jack Attack saying I was one of a few on Puelles last time as an underdog. I think he gets it done again here too. Yeah, I know. I was actually thinking I was leaning Levitt there, but there was no way I was betting it. But yeah, Puelles looked great. But the thing about Puelles last time was he had that, I believe it was almost a 2-year layoff between fights. And sometimes it's hard to know when somebody's that young. Are they making the improvements while you don't see them? But yeah, with Claudio, it was clear that he did. And man, he looked great on the ground against Jordan Levitt, who could be very tricky, very difficult, very unorthodox to deal with on the ground. And Puelles did a fantastic job just kind of floating on top of him, staying out of trouble, and amassing a ton of control time against a guy who's a good wrestler and good grappler in his own right. A guy that's in Levitt that's several levels on the ground better than a Chris Greutzemacher. Jay saying, I appreciate that. I like the chances of that hitting. Yeah, man, I do too. And I like those parlays because if you get one leg wrong, then you can put another parlay down and the very next week, use that free bet. And then you can, as long as you're getting 3 out of 4 legs, you can still put those parlays up every week and it doesn't really cost you anything because on FanDuel, if all 4 of your legs of your parlay are minus 200 or greater, they will give you insurance where if only one of the legs doesn't cash, then you can get a free bet the next week. So it's always fun doing those. Jack Tech saying, I'm very high on Leo too. Okay. Alex Ramirez, general in the room. What's up, dude? And we've got Weezy's definitely got some of that ancient Greek philosopher blood in him. Yeah, you know, my grandfather loved the philosophers. And I'll tell you a story time with Uncle Weezy one of these times about how my grandfather was friends with a very, very famous physicist. It's a great story. My grandma told some amazing stories when I was growing up. She had an amazing life. And while I never got to meet my grandfather, I heard some stories about him, and a couple of them will blow your mind. So good to see you guys hanging out with me here. We got 18 of you guys willing to break down one of the lower level fights on the card in terms of just where it is on the card, not where these guys are in their careers. They're not low level fighters, but this is one of the first 5 fights in the night on a 15 fight card on a fight night card. So not a lot of people come charging at your door waiting to watch a balls deep breakdown on Puelles and Greutzemacher. But you guys, the 18 people hanging with me right now, are the hardcore fans. So let's get into these stats. Let's get into all the numbers here. And let's see if my guy Smooth Jimmy Apollo is ready to go. If he's out of makeup here and ready with his lock of the week and his cigar and his big ass smile. Because if he is, we are going to get into these stats. And there he is, you guys. Smooth Jimmy Apollo, ready to go. My guy Roy C, ready to go. I'm ready to go. Smooth Jimmy's ready to go. All of you guys are ready to go. So let's get into the stats. All right. And we're going to start where we always do. That's my subscriber to the MMAplay365.com tape index there, which is where I watch all my tape. Very good little product there. Shout out MMA Lock in the Night, who provides this. Great little resource for very cheap monthly subscription in order to watch all the tape on the upcoming fights that you're planning on gambling on. But when you want statistics on the fights that you're about to gamble on, you don't got to pay shit for them. You just got to go see your Uncle Weezy. And the link to these stats are going to be in the description of this video, you guys. We got Puelles here. We got Greutzemacher, I believe, up here. No, that's Jamal Hill. We'll be dealing with him later on tonight. So here we got Puelles. Here we got Greutzemacher. And let's get the matchup template here up on the page for you guys. And we're going to zoom way in so that you guys can see all of the information. And let's start, like we always do on Balls Deep Breakdown, with the tail of the tape. And right away, the first group of statistics that we look at favors Puelles here in a huge way, as we see that this guy is 10 years younger than Chris Greutzemacher. 25 years old for Puelles, 35 years old for Greutzemacher. And he's also going to have a 3-inch height advantage as Puelles and a 4-inch reach advantage. In addition to that, he is the southpaw, while Greutzemacher is the orthodox fighter. And that is also significant, can be statistically significant in terms of the southpaw wins the southpaw orthodox matchup about 60% of the time. So it is something to look at as well. We got Puelles. He's training out of Sanford MMA. I don't know why it still says that, whatever it is, but it is Sanford MMA, straight out of Peru, the fighting pride of Peru, Claudio Puelles, while we got Chris Greutzemacher. So Jack Attack said that he was training at Moreno Jiu-Jitsu. I'll just say Moreno BJJ. Thank you, Jack Attack. So yeah, definitely you got to like that 10 years younger. You got to like that 3-inch height advantage. You got to love that 4-inch reach advantage. Although the reach advantage against a fighter like Greutzemacher probably isn't going to mean much, because if you watch the way that Greutzemacher fights, he doesn't sit on the outside and try to pick you apart. He never stops marching forward. And whether he's got a 10-inch reach disadvantage or a 20-inch reach disadvantage, the fact that he walks forward like a zombie, like a mummy, it doesn't really leave you as somebody with a reach advantage saying, oh, I'm comfortable with this reach advantage, because you're never going to have Greutzemacher at the end of your punches. Almost never. It's going to be because the guy's just going to be marching in your face the entire fight. And it will be Greutzemacher here, predictably, because he's 10 years older, that has the experience advantage here over Puelles. 19 professional fights to 12 for Puelles. We got about 54 more minutes in the pro cage for Chris Greutzemacher. The average fight time for both of these guys is right around 7 minutes for the aggregate of their entire careers. And we see that Greutzemacher's been in the game almost 5 years longer, as he's got a 13-year and 1-month career as a pro, and Puelles has an 8-year and 4-month career. So it's interesting to look at that, because Greutzemacher starts fighting back when he's about 22 years old. But you look at Puelles at 25 with an 8.5-year career. This guy's been fighting since he was about 16, 17 years old. So this guy has been growing up before our eyes, has Puelles. And he was on the Ultimate Fighter Latin America way back in the day, and did very well in the house when I believe he was only 20 years old. I don't even think he was old enough to drink in the United States yet. And this guy was on the Ultimate Fighter, beating guys like Marcelo Rojo. Really, this kid has been in the deep end now for a very long time. So the fact that he's only 25 years old, usually when you're seeing UFC athletes at the age of 25, you're not seeing a guy that it already has 4 UFC fights and already has 12 professional fights. And then not only that, you've got those 3 Ultimate Fighter fights where he beat, I've got it here in tape index. So a win over Jose David Flores, a win over Pablo Sabori, and a win over Marcelo Rojo, all in the house. So, in addition to those 12 fights, he had 2 2-round fights and a 3-round fight. So he's really got like 15 professional fights. So even though he's 10 years younger, and even though he's got that reach advantage and that height advantage, and he's a southpaw, we can look at Puelles' Ultimate Fighter experience and say he's even closer to Greutzemacher. But then we also have to remember Greutzemacher did have Ultimate Fighter experience as well, as he was in the house fighting guys like Artem Lobov, fighting guys like Sasha Sharma and Austin Springer. So, both of these guys have got 3 tough fights. Both of these guys are pretty experienced, but it is going to be Greutzemacher who has the overall experience advantage. And if we look at how these guys are finishing fights, the finishing rate's very close for both of them. We see that Puelles here, 50% of his overall wins by submission, 20% by knockouts. That's 2 knockout wins, 5 submission wins, 70% finish rate overall for Puelles. While we got Greutzemacher here with 20% of his wins coming by sub, 47% by knockout. So 10 of his 15 pro wins have come inside the distance here. And we would say 8 of them are going to be by knockout, 3 of them by submission. And then when we look at the overall losses combined for these guys, we got 6 total losses. 5 of them have come inside the distance, as Greutzemacher has been finished in all 4 of his professional losses, 3 by submission, 1 by knockout, and Puelles has been finished once by knockout. It was Martin Bravo who knocked him out, and he's never been submitted. So one of the bets that I'm looking at, which is the 4th leg of my greasy 4-leg parlay, which I just gave out on Twitter, is the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight. I love when fighters have a 100% finish rate inside the distance. While this is close, this is 5 out of 6. So it's an 83% implied probability of a finish if you just look at the combined losses between these 2 guys. But even in the UFC losses, 3 for Greutzemacher and 1 for Puelles, all 4 of those combined UFC losses have happened inside the distance as well. And then you also look and you see, when we did see Puelles get knocked out by Martin Bravo, Bravo was really just voluming him, marching him down, walking him down, and landing a lot of good body shots. And that's what did it. It was the body shot that finally finished Puelles. And we do know that Puelles has got a chin on him. He was taking a beating from Felipe Silva and wound up pulling out a Hail Mary knee bar like 14 minutes into that fight. And he had his orbital broken, and that fight was very close to being stopped several times. But, Silva was stopping his ability to be able to wrestle. And in addition to that, beating him up on the ground. But it was, he lands heavy shots, does Felipe Silva. So one of the things that I've seen from Puelles is that he can be a little bit deficient in the stand-up striking exchanges. Now, of course, when we saw him getting beaten up by Felipe Silva, getting beaten up by Martin Bravo, getting knocked down in the house by what was it, Sharma? What was that guy's name? In the Sabori fight, he got knocked down and came back and wound up getting I believe, a knee bar submission as well in that one, or it might have been a heel hook. But this guy Puelles, he can absolutely be pressured on the feet. He can be hurt in the striking exchanges. And Greutzemacher is absolutely the kind of fighter who could do that to him as well. So not only do I see a potential path for Greutzemacher to win this fight by knockout, I also see a path for Puelles, who's got 5 career wins by submission, and Greutzemacher, who's got 3 career losses by submission. There's definitely a path for both of these guys to finish this fight. So the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 135 for me. Very intriguing, you guys. So let's get here. Let's see what you guys are saying. Yes. So Jack Attack hitting us with the knowledge here, saying that Moreno BJJ via his Instagram. So now the matchup template has been edited, and we got the correct information on there on both sides. I don't know why it still said for Puelles that he wasn't at Sanford, because he is at Sanford MMA. All right. So thank you for that, Jack Attack. We got JSJ saying, how much stock do you put into Gritz's loss to Davy Ramos? Taken down in every round and 5 times total. So, I still saw classic Grits in that Davy Ramos fight, because when that fight was taking place on the feet, I saw Gritz's conditioning holding up, his pressure holding up, and Davy Ramos was doing a good job staying on his bike, circling, trying to keep Grits at the end of his punches, and he was having some success doing that. But you can really only have success doing that against Grits for so long, because Grits never stops with the pressure. He never takes a backward step, and he doesn't really seem to get tired. So while Ramos did a really good job, every single time Ramos took down Greutzemacher, he did a great job threatening with submissions. So I really liked what I was seeing from him there, because I think that the path when you take down somebody like Grits, the path to turn that into something is not to do what Rafa Garcia was doing, which was kind of trying to stay on top without really attacking for submissions. I think when you get Grits down, you immediately have to try to start going to his back, because if you don't start going to his back and trying to threaten to take his back, he scooches, he gets to his hip, he shrimps, he gets his back to the fence, and then he stands up. And he does it over and over again. He did it over and over again in the Garcia fight. And it was because Garcia couldn't rest on the ground, and because he wasn't attacking with submissions, that he was using all this energy. I think 5 of 13 on his takedown attempts was Garcia. He got 5 of them, but he was really only holding him down for 20 seconds at a time. And when the fight kept getting back to the feet, you would see Greutzemacher continue to have success, continue to walk him down, continue to throw more volume than him. While Ramos was actually probably landing the bigger shots, you could tell it was really exhausting him. And even when Ramos got that takedown late in the second round against Greutzemacher, JSJ, we saw a very tired Ramos get that takedown and then spend the rest of the round on top, which was very huge. And then when he got the takedown in the third, he immediately got to Gritz's back. And I think about 5 to 10 seconds later, he sunk in that choke. And it was a very similar situation in the Skelly fight, where Skelly was constantly working to try to get his back. And once he got Gritz's back, that's when Grits stayed down, because now you're making him defend submissions. You're not just laying on top of him waiting for him to shrimp, waiting for him to get his back to the cage so that he can stand back up. Because if you don't threaten with submissions on the ground, that is when Grits is just going to keep getting up. And then that's when the attrition starts. That's when your gas tank starts to go and his stays the same. And that's when Grits is at his most dangerous. So while Ramos looked really good in the Grits fight, you could see what Grits was doing was giving him problems. You have to get on Grits's back. You have to make him defend submissions, because if you don't, it's going to be 15 minutes of hell trying to keep this guy down and trying to not be dealing with this pressure, because it's like a nightmare the way that he marches people down. So yeah, man, I was impressed almost by Grits's performance in the Ramos fight, because we know that Ramos is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. This guy is top level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Puelles is not on Davy Ramos's level Jiu-Jitsu wise. So while Ramos did have success on the ground against Grits, ultimately getting that third round rear naked choke, it's still we saw Grits kind of swim with him on the ground and really start to wear on him on the feet. And I think that if Ramos doesn't get that takedown in the third round there, that fight gets nasty. It gets very ugly for Davy Ramos there in the third round, because you could see that Grits' pressure was starting to wear on him. Jack Tag saying, I do lean towards the fight ending inside the distance too. Nice. Good to know we're on the same page there. We got to see the jump in skill between the 2-year layoff leading up to the Levitt fight. So I expect to see some improvements this time out. With him being at Sanford, we could get to see. Absolutely. Yeah, and the kid's only 25. So, like, he's entering his athletic prime, but he's entering his athletic prime with, like, 7 years of pro experience. You know, experience in the Ultimate Fighter House, fighting future UFC pros like Marcelo Rojo at the age of 19 and 20 years old. So, yeah, the sky is the limit for Puelles, and he's got a really good camp behind him, too. So he could be making these improvements. And we did see a really nice, refined, floating on top game against a very tricky Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner in Jordan Levitt the last time out. So, and Levitt even has a high school wrestling background, Nevada State champion. So, yeah, you know, very, very good performance there. And I think that's why Puelles was an underdog to Levitt, because we had seen more of Levitt recently. They're both kind of young. But, you know, it's Puelles who's making these big improvements, while Jordan Levitt was still pretty new to the game. So, yeah, we could definitely see a lot more improvements here. We could see things that we haven't seen from Puelles yet in his stand-up, because most of that fight against Levitt took place in control time positions. Jack Attack saying, with him being at Sanford, we could get to see more of his striking improvements, because the Levitt fight wasn't the type of fight to show him. Yes, of course, exactly. The Levitt fight was an entirely grappling match. You know, Puelles is going to have to force the grappling in this particular fight. He's going to have to make sure that his offensive wrestling and top control is on point, because Greutzemacher is not fun to deal with on the feet, you guys. Not fun at all. And unless you have the kind of striking like an Alexander Hernandez, who can shut somebody's lights off with one shot, Grits' pressure is something you don't want to deal with for 15 consecutive minutes. He's the kind of guy who breaks dudes. The way he broke Joe Lozon was nasty, you guys. And JSJ saying, yeah, it's hard to rate where Puelles' striking is at in 2021. Sanford are masters at getting grapplers comfortable on their feet, though. Yeah, and if Puelles does get really comfortable on the feet, man, that's going to be really interesting, because there's definitely some room for improvement there with the stand up. And if we see him take that next step with the stand up, he's going to be a guy that's going to be avoided by a lot of people in the lightweight class. Daz Files saying, learning. What's up, Daz Files? Good to see you in here. Mateo Garcia saying, oi, oi. Oi, oi, Mateo. Good to see you hanging out. Abu Dhabi saying, Puelles seems like the public dog, and Clinton is on him. Sounds like Grits or pass. And he says, Peruvian fighters aren't a thing in the UFC. You know, that's what they said about Guyanese fighters until Carlton Harris came into the UFC. You know, that's what they said about Kazakhstani fighters until we saw one Damir Ismagulov come into the UFC. You know, that's what they said about Uzbekistan, my friend, until we saw one Mahmoud Muradov come into the UFC. I could go on and on. Where was Belgium on the map until we saw one Gaetano Perello go in there and get his ass shaved by Ricky Simone and then Douglas Silva de Andrade? Peruvian fighters are a thing, my friend. We got Enrique Barzola. Ever heard of him? He's a stud. And he's also from Peru, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm not fucking up Barzola's heritage. My apologies if I did, Enrique, but I believe you're from Peru, the fighting pride of Peru, just like Claudio Puelles. They're going to put Peru on the map this year. But yeah, Peruvian fighters, there aren't many of them, obviously. But yeah, guess who else trained in Peru for a very long time? What some people might say is the women's GOAT, when Valentina Shevchenko was training down in Peru. So actually, I got to disagree with you there. But anyway, we move on. And he says, touche. And then we got JSJ saying, didn't have to do Perello like that. Yeah, you know, I was just starting to name countries that we hadn't heard of, you know, and then I named Perello, and I'm like, oh wait, he got his ass shaved both fights. But anyway, we got Jack Attack saying, I think Barzola is Peruvian. LOL. Yeah, he's solid. Okay, cool, good. Luis Palomino, he was Peruvian. Man, I remember those Palomino, the Palomino Gaethje fight was so awesome. Really fun to watch that dude. And where was Greece before Mihailidis? Where was Greece before Mihailidis, JSJ23? How about inventing mathematics and democracy and civilization, baby? The Greeks were great 5,000 years ago. Unfortunately, I think the Greeks did peak a long time ago, and now they're in a lot of debt to the European Union and got a lot of shiftless politicians stealing from the people there. But, you know, yeah, when it comes to mixed martial arts, you know, Greece has got Mihailidis, they've got Vanessa Demopoulos, they've got Christina Steliou. We might be waiting for a minute for our first great mixed martial artist from Greece. It's not going to be your Uncle Weezy, I can tell you that. That train, my friends, has sailed. But anyway, where was Germany before Mandy Bohm? Well, at least they got the Zawada brothers. Come on, man. At least they got the Zawada brothers. They had Nick Hine for a minute. Mandy Bohm, just, oh, God, I lost a unit on Mandy Bohm, and I have to count that amongst one of the worst bets I've ever made. She got absolutely fucking destroyed, and I felt like an asshole for making that bet. Elias Theodorou, but he's Canada. You know, I mean, Elias is of Greek descent, but he's definitely a Canadian, and he claims Canada as his home country. But yes, shout out Elias Theodorou. I believe 8-3 in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. And we got, let's see here, Jack Attack saying, that was a great response. Aldo saying, Greece has the hottest women in Europe. Greece is a beautiful country with absolutely beautiful women. Cheyenne Vlismas of Greek descent as well. But yeah, like the ones that are actually coming out of Greece, you know, I'm sure that their mixed martial arts scene is getting better, and we'll probably be hearing some names coming out of there, hopefully a little more soon. But you know, it's mixed martial arts is a budding sport all over the world. We got people coming out of every country. It's crazy. Greece hasn't done anything since the Parthenon. Come on, VCR repairman. Jack Attack, if I was Greek, I'd let Canada have Theodorou too. Greece does have Kyriakos Grizzly. Okay. And we've got Abu Dhabi saying, Hellenikus, Ine Oreo, Bravo Weezy, Yamas, Tikanis, Abu Dhabi. Looks like you even speak a little bit Greek, certainly more than I do, unfortunately, but I appreciate that, my man. Let's get into these striking stats, you guys, because this is the striker versus grappler matchup that I was talking about here. And we can't talk about striking stats until we talk about control time stats as well, because it's very important to know how much of these guys spend striking, you know, whether it's, you know, 90%, 20%, 50%. that's when we find out where these guys are the most comfortable. But let's first get into these striking stats. We're going to see that it's going to be Greutzemacher having a huge advantage in these numbers, you guys. 1.76 significant strikes landed per minute by Puelles, but 3.02 absorbed. So a negative 1.25 significant strike ratio differential here for Puelles. While Greutzemacher here throws a ton of volume, 12.33 significant strike attempts per minute. He's landing almost 7 of them and absorbing about 5.35. So we see about a positive 1.6 significant strike differential here. So while Greutzemacher's plus 1.6, we got Puelles here about minus 1.25. So a massive advantage in terms of which guy has historically been winning minutes when on the feet. That's obviously Greutzemacher. Greutzemacher is going to probably be winning damn near most of the minutes as long as this fight stays on the feet. And if we look at the defense here, Puelles below 50%. That's not good. And he's been knocked down 2 times in 149 significant strikes absorbed. And I saw him knocked down in the UFC house as well. So, we do see that Puelles, we're still waiting for him to take some of those defensive steps in his striking. But he's still a young man, only 25 years old. So he's been at Sanford now for a couple of years. It's going to be interesting to see, does he make any improvements in his striking? While, we see Grits here is a little bit better in every category. But what Grits does well is the volume. As we see, he's throwing 12.33 significant attempts per minute, and his opponents are throwing 11.74. So he's thrown 35 more strikes in his UFC tenure than his opponents have. He's got about 9% more accuracy in his striking. He doesn't have power, but that's not his game. He's not trying to knock you out throwing one big punch. He's trying to march forward and break you with pressure, pace, and volume, and body shots. And he throws a ton of body shots. He works the body very well. He does mix up his targets reasonably well, while Puelles tends to be more of a one-and-done type of striker. He will throw big body kicks. And because he's a southpaw and is used to fighting orthodox fighters, he throws that big right or that big left down that middle, that big left body kick, big head kicks, big actions, but one at a time. While, with Greutzemacher, it's just march forward, and he keeps his hands up high, close to his chin, and he's throwing from his shoulders and just kind of coming in straight, dig into the body, volume up top. And we can see 12.33 significant strikes thrown per minute to 3.73 for Puelles. So, we do see not just, a striker versus grappler matchup, but we also see kind of like a contrast in the type of strikers that they are, where with Greutzemacher, it's just volume and pressure, while Puelles, it's really more one at a time, big strikes, big actions. So I really believe that Greutzemacher is going to be winning minutes easily here on the feet. So how does Greutzemacher do keeping the fight on the feet? Let's look at the grappling stats. So we see that Greutzemacher is getting 4.08% control time, but allowing 29.91% control time. So Greutzemacher, his fights are taking place in striking range about 67% of the time. About 66% of the time. So he's been successful keeping it standing more times than it isn't. And when it is standing, he does a great job. And we can see it right here in the takedown attempts. In Greutzemacher's 6 fights, he's only attempted 1 takedown, and he didn't even get that takedown. So he's never gotten a takedown. He's not interested in taking you down. He's not interested in winning minutes on the cage and the clinch. He's not interested in winning minutes on the ground in the grappling with top control. He's interested in keeping the fight standing, uncorking a ton of volume, walking forward like a mummy, and breaking you with his pace, pressure, and volume. Puelles, on the other hand, has been very good at keeping fights on the ground, which is where he's going to need to keep this fight, you guys. As long as this fight is on the feet, I think that he's going to be needlessly yielding minutes to the guy who throws more pressure, who the optics are going to be way better for in terms of just walking forward. And you know, if we had seen Puelles show some kind of power at any point in his career with his striking, maybe we could say he lands a big shot. Maybe we could say he lands the more eye-popping shots in this fight, but I just don't really see it. I don't really see it in this case, you guys, because it's not what he does. It's not what he's done in the past. And what worries me about the stand-up exchanges here is you could be lazy and say, well, Puelles is 3-4 inches taller, got a 5-inch reach advantage. You know, he should be winning on the feet. But we know that the best way to combat somebody that has a big reach advantage on you is just to relentlessly pressure them. And we know that that's what we're going to get out of Greutzemacher. Greutzemacher is not coming up with new wrinkles to his game at the age of 35, you guys. He was the same fighter he's the same fighter now that he was 10 years ago. He's always been a pressure guy. He's always been a boxer. He's always been a guy that's been most comfortable using his hands as his first and foremost weapons. He has great conditioning. He marches you down. He's always done that. Now, Puelles, we're going to start to see new wrinkles to the game, new wrinkles to the grappling, to the wrestling, to the stand-up in particular, working over at Sanford MMA. And we see right here, 51.49% control time, guys, 11.76% control time against. And even in the fights that we don't have stats for back in the Ultimate Fighter House, we saw Puelles winning minutes with his wrestling over and over and over again. And this is exactly the kind of a statistical set that you want to see when they're going to be fighting a guy like Greutzemacher, because we know it's going to be very difficult for Puelles to win minutes on the feet here. But we do see that his fights are taking place in control time positions about 63% of the time. If he keeps his fight in control time possession 63% of the time, he should easily win 2 out of 3 rounds here if this fight goes all the way. And we do know that Greutzemacher has 3 career losses by submission. So if this fight does get to the ground and Puelles starts working tries to start working to Gritz's back, or starts to work for some leg locks, knee bars, heel hooks, something that he's gotten before and is a very, very dangerous submission that can, you can't work for 12 weeks and then just completely, change your jiu-jitsu. It's hard, especially at this level. And Puelles has had a lot of success with his jiu-jitsu already at this level. So, the fact that he's getting his takedowns here at almost a 50% clip, averaging 3.35 takedowns per 15 minutes. And look at Greutzemacher. He's yielding 3.52 takedowns per 15 minutes. So as worried as I am that Greutzemacher wins the minutes here on the feet, I feel a lot more safe with my money on Puelles here when I see that Puelles is getting about as many takedowns per 15 minutes as Greutzemacher has been yielding, and that he's getting almost twice as much control time on top as Greutzemacher has been yielding at 30%. Puelles getting 51.5% here. So, and then we look here at the takedown defense for Chris Greutzemacher, and bam, we got 61% takedown defense, and it just doesn't look like Greutzemacher is really that interested in stopping takedowns. But once you take him down, if you're not trying to get on his back, Greutzemacher will get his back up against the fence and continue to stand up over and over and over again. Greutzemacher also does have a high school wrestling background. I believe he was a runner-up in high school for state in the state of Arizona. So Grits can wrestle, but 61% takedown defense doesn't inspire confidence. If you're looking for, if you're on the Greutzemacher side, you think he can win this fight, man, you'd like him to stop takedowns at a better than 60% clip, because that's the way that he's going to wind up losing minutes in this fight, is when this fight is on the ground. And we do know how dangerous Puelles is on the ground here. So while we've got to give that striking advantage and that volume advantage to Chris Greutzemacher while this is on the feet, if Puelles has made a ton of improvements on the feet that we weren't able to see in the Levitt fight, we will see them in this fight. But right now, until we see them, I think we have to give Greutzemacher the striking advantage on paper. But then it's also very clear that we can very clearly give Puelles the grappling advantage here on paper, as he spends almost 2/3 of his fights in control time positions, and is those control time positions are being dominated by Puelles almost 5/6 of the time. That's like about almost 83%. So very good job for Puelles to be able to win minutes on the ground. Very good job in the numbers here for Greutzemacher to win minutes on the feet. Which one of these guys gets their game plan done? Which one of these guys achieves their objective of being able to get the fight where they want it, where they're most comfortable? That's where we're going to find the money on this one. And I do believe that Puelles has the conditioning and the wrestling pedigree in order to be able to get this fight to the ground and keep it there and challenge with enough submissions to make Greutzemacher not think so much about getting up as he does about just defending those submissions and surviving. That'll be the way for Puelles to win this fight. And then the longer it goes, the more chances Grits is going to have to take to get the fight back to the feet. That's when we could see him giving up his knees, giving up his neck, giving up an arm, and we could see Puelles finishing the fight that way. So let's look at the strength of schedule numbers here, you guys. This is Greutzemacher all day, very clearly. We can see the ratio at 1.29 for Grits, while it's 0.6 for Puelles. And then Puelles' opponents have only 2 total fights, while Greutzemacher fighting the more experienced competition here as well with 8 total fights. If we look at the wins, Puelles' ratio a little bit better at 1.5. However, fighting the much less experienced competition as well here with 1.67 total fights for Greutzemacher's 9. So Greutzemacher's got better wins. And then when we look at who these guys are losing to, Puelles' like losses have come to guys that, are their only win is against Puelles. So that's kind of interesting. While Greutzemacher is losing to guys with an average record of 4-3, 7 total fights, and a 1.33 ratio. We see the last 5 here. Alvaro Sagasti, Martin Bravo knocked out Claudio Puelles. Felipe Silva was submitted in the 3rd round by Puelles, but that was an ass kicking up until that Hail Mary submission. Puelles just absolutely wore down Marcos Mariano, one of the worst UFC fighters everywhere. It just basically was like Anderson Silva's friend, I think, is why he got in there. He was like 6-4 when he got to the UFC. And then Jordan Levitt, a really impressive grappling heavy performance there. But Levitt is was trying to, initiate the grappling exchanges in that fight. So, this is going to be one where he's going to be, Greutzemacher is going to be actively attempting to not grapple here with him. And it was a loss by submission to Chad Skelly, a loss by submission to Davey Ramos, a win by knockout. Lozon retired after the 2nd round in that fight, a loss by knockout to Alexander Hernandez, and then a win by unanimous decision over Rafa Garcia. So let's see what you guys are saying here in the chat. There's my guy Brady. And let's see. Oh, yeah, my guy MMA Asphalt in the room. Check out his channel. He's been doing some great breakdowns on his own YouTube channel. So big up yourself, MMA Asphalt, saying, oh, let's go Weezy. Yay. And we got Abu Dhabi saying Mike Lambides, great Greek K1 fighter. Cool. I didn't know that. That's nice. Mike Zambidis. Mike Zambidis. And we got, he says DFS by the numbers. What's up, man? It's good to see you, Brady. And let's see here. We got Block Bet MMA saying DraftKings. Chris scores well on his back. 2, 10+ pitter-patter strikes per minute. Should score well in a win, even if he's held down a lot. Yeah, now that they count those ground strikes, people that are active on the ground, even in defensive spots where they're giving up control time, can rack up some points. We got my guy Tajik Bey in the room. What's up, Tajik? Good to see you, brother. And we got Blood Money MMA Bet saying, what's up, Weezy? I'm all over Grits. His takedown defense and get-up game looked great against Rafa. Yeah, he kept getting up against Rafa. Rafa was very lazy on the ground, though, and was leaving a lot of room between his hips and Grits' hips. And he wasn't really attacking for submissions, was Rafa, but still got those takedowns even when he was tired. So yes, if we look at here, as a matter of fact, let's talk about that, Blood Money, because you brought up a point that I was looking at here. If we look at the advanced stats and we look in particular in this Rafa Garcia fight, you'll see that he gave up 386 seconds of control time, but that was on 12 takedown attempts and 5 takedowns. So if you look, that would be about 70 seconds of control per takedown, and about 30 seconds of control time per takedown attempt. So definitely a very good get-up game. He kept scooching his ass out of there. He was shrimping. He was getting his back to the fence, and he was very, very active from the bottom. The thing is that I think Claudio is a little bit better in terms of his control time. If you watch the Natan Levy Garcia fight, it was the same thing. Levy was taking down Garcia and the other way around. But when Garcia was taking down Levy, Levy kept getting back up over and over and over again. And I'm looking for Puelles to have a little more success attacking with submissions from the top. He's a little slicker in terms of him going for submissions, getting to people's back and creating scrambles. That's what I'm looking for him to do, because we didn't see enough of that out of Rafa. And in addition to that, we did see Rafa, like Hernandez, have some immediate striking success against Greutzemacher because Greutzemacher is so insistent walking forward and is so predictable with the way that he attacks. He leaves himself open defensively to some straight rights right down the pipe. And we've seen him get popped by Garcia. We've seen him get popped by Alexander Hernandez. We've seen Davy Ramos land some big shots on him. So Greutzemacher can be a bit of a mummy. He can be a little bit defensively deficient at times himself. But yeah, I'm with you there. He does not accept bottom position. If you don't make him work to defend submissions, he will just get his back to the fence and stand up over and over and over again. And he has the conditioning to do that over and over again. He's going to dominate on the feet. Yes, I think he will as well. And Puelles' wrestling is suspect in my opinion too. Well, the numbers don't really show it to be suspect. I mean, you guys got to remember that Puelles, when we saw him even back in the Ultimate Fighter house, like I said, he was 19 years old. He was 20 years old. And he's beating guys that had way more experience than him. And it was his wrestling that he kept going to over and over and over again. And he's getting those takedowns at a great clip here. We're talking about 11 out of 23 on his takedown attempts, 47.83% takedown percentage, 3.35 takedowns per 15 minutes, and 51% control time. So some of the best wrestling metrics really here in the division. Not great on the defensive end, but we don't have to worry about Greutzemacher taking him down. And JSJ saying, wish there was a stat that outlined fighters' get-up game. Grit's not great at stuffing shots, but pretty good at working his way up. Yeah, that's something you kind of have to look at really deeply, is look how many takedowns there were in a fight, how much clinch control there was, and then basically what you can do is you can kind of, if you eliminate the clinch control time from the control time and then just determine, people's get-up game from knockdowns, reverses, and the times they get taken down, you can get an idea how willing somebody is to accept bottom position and then who the fighters are who actively try to get up. Grit's definitely one of the guys that will be getting up as much as he possibly can here. And he's got the conditioning to get up over and over again. Paul Brassfield saying, hello, Weezy. Will there be a second Balls Deep breakdown? Yes, there will. Tonight, 10 o'clock Central Time, you guys. I'll put out the link on StreamYard into YouTube when I'm done with this one. But we will be doing James Crute against Jamal Hill, 10 o'clock Central Time tonight. Thank you, Paul, for asking. And we got Blood Money saying, true. I do think Puelles' BJJ is definitely better than Rafa. Weezy is the best stat guy in the game, hands down. I appreciate all that you do, brother. I appreciate you hanging out with those Blood Money MMA bets. It's always good to have you in here, and I love having people tell me, hey, I'm on Puelles. Well, I'm on Grits, and we talk like professionals, about what, we have to be honest about where, I'm picking Puelles, but I have to be honest that, if this fight stays standing, the Grits is going to have a ton of success, man. And Wheel Kick Ignacio saying Puelles by sub. That is one of the props that I'm going to be looking at as well. So we've went through the last 5. We've went through the strength of schedule stats, you guys. So let's sum up. Claudio Puelles, I'm going to give him a big-time tail of the tape advantage here, being 10 years younger, 3 inches taller, 4-inch reach advantage, and being a southpaw, and he's fighting out of Sanford MMA right now. I'm going to give Claudio Puelles, without question, the grappling advantage here, being the more aggressive wrestler, having a great top game, having a great submission game, and that lining up with the fact that 3 out of 4 of Greutzemacher's losses in his career have been by submission. So Puelles, tail of the tape advantage, Puelles, grappling advantage. But we've got to give Greutzemacher the experience advantage here. We've got to give Greutzemacher the striking advantage. And we got to give Greutzemacher the strength of schedule advantage here. So this is a very interesting fight. It's lined very close for a reason, because both of these guys have a path. If Greutzemacher gets his game off, if he keeps this fight standing and wears down Puelles with volume, pressure, and pace, it's going to be his night. If Puelles is able to, get his wrestling going, make this a dirty fight, get this fight to the ground, work towards Gritz's back and work for submissions, I think he could have a ton of success here. I think either way, whoever gets their game plan utilized is going to have a great chance of finishing this fight. So fight doesn't go to decision at plus 135 is a bet that I'm going to be looking to add to the bets that I've already made this week. And it is a part of my 4-leg parlay that I gave out on Twitter today, which is eligible for insurance on FanDuel.com. So check that one out. And yeah, you guys, I think if we look at these lines, because we're almost an hour into this and I want to keep this under an hour if I can. We've got right now, it looks like Greutzemacher on the average is minus 111, while Puelles is minus 111. It looks like this line might flip. It was Puelles who was opening up at minus 150. Then he went all the way up to about plus 118 here, and then it's really just been money coming in steadily here on Puelles. It looks like the line is going to flip. When we go to the props here, the fight doesn't go to decision, as available at plus 135 right now at Bet Online. I think that will be an official bet of mine. And then Puelles by submission, almost plus 500 here. We can get it at plus 500 here on FanDuel, plus 450 on DraftKings, plus 475 on Bet Online. And let's see, Greutzemacher inside the distance on the average is around plus 320. Puelles inside the distance is on the aggregate about plus 336. Both pretty interesting bets there. I do think the fight finishes inside the distance. What could be an interesting little prop here at plus 1,600 is Greutzemacher in round 3, guys. Because Greutzemacher has that fantastic conditioning, because if Puelles is able to get this into the 3rd round and isn't able to finish Greutzemacher, you know how exhausting a wrestling heavy game plan could be. Potentially, we could see Greutzemacher able to stuff the takedown attempts in the 3rd round and be able to wear out Puelles and knock him out. So that could be a cheeky little stab there at plus 1,600. But yeah, the pick, you guys, is going to be Claudio Puelles. I think he's going to win this by submission if he's able to get this to the ground, and instead of just letting the guy get up, working to try to get towards his back. The one thing that I did want to mention too is Chaz Skelly was training under Henry Hooft when he submitted Greutzemacher back in the day, and had a great game plan, got to his back just like I think Puelles needs to. And so Henry Hooft has already coached somebody successfully against Chris Greutzemacher in the past. Greutzemacher just getting older, 35-year-old version of the same fighter. So, yeah, I'm going to be picking Claudio Puelles here. Yeah, you guys, this has been a fun one. Let's see if there's anything else that you guys have been saying in here. Hammer and Hog in the room saying, yo. And we got 2 saying, I pulled the trigger on Puelles after seeing Grits trains in his garage. Yeah, man. Yeah, it was I had Brady sending me pictures of this guy like basically training in a garage, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know if he's not AT&T anymore. And we got Daz File saying, Who does Puelles train with? He's training over at Sanford MMA right now, and he's been there for the last, I think, 2 or 3 fights. 2 saying Sanford, yes, and Daz Fowl saying, aha. Says Pitbull on Tapology. Another reason to bet him. I'm just watching this one. And Blood Money saying, I see this fight going a lot like his Joe Lozon fight. I hope. Well, yeah, if you got money on Grits, man, you want it going like that Lozon fight, because Grits looked absolutely fantastic in that fight. And that's an example of Grits getting his game off. Lozon wasn't able to take him down and hold him down. And that is when you're not able to do that against Grits, and you don't have a ton of power going in Grits' direction, which is going to frustrate him and make him less likely just to march forward and volume him to death. Well, then you see what happens. And he did it to Joe Lozon, and Joe Lozon's corner threw in the towel after the second round, man. He put a beating on him. So, yeah, if you got money on Greutzemacher this weekend, you want this fight going like the Joe Lozon fight. LOL, the garage training. Let's go Puelles, the Peruvian nightmare. Let's go Puelles, man. I'm rooting for him too, but this is going to be a great scrap, great striker versus grappler matchup. I'm on Puelles at plus 100. You can now get him right around to pick him at minus 110. It's the same for Greutzemacher. You know, if you're on that Greutzemacher side, you could take a look and say, hey, you know, I had to pay like minus 130 for him a little bit ago. You know, people were getting Puelles around plus 120 less than a week ago. So now the price is getting better on Greutzemacher if that's who you're looking to bet. But my pick is going to be Claudio Puelles, guys. I think he's going to get it done inside the distance by submission. But I think it's a great fight. And I also like the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 135. So we're going to hang it up there, you guys. I appreciate you hanging out. As always, you can download the stats for free. They are in the description of this video. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. You'll get notifications for all the videos, all the Balls Deep breakdowns for just the tip. And I appreciate each and every one of you guys for hanging out with me on a Wednesday afternoon. And I will be live again, 10 o'clock Central Time tonight. I will put that link out on YouTube here shortly. And we will be going balls deep on all the relevant stats for the UFC 44 Vegas 44 matchup between Jimmy Crute and Jamal Hill. That one's going to be a banger. Another striker versus grappler matchup that we're going to go balls deep into the numbers and the technical aspects of. Thank you guys for hanging out. Let's see, we got, let me just say goodbye to you guys here in the chat, because this show is nothing without you guys hanging out in the chat. Mateo Garcia saying thanks, Weez. Thank you, Mateo. Blood Money saying great show, Weezy. Can't wait for the next one. Appreciate you, Blood Money. And rooting for you on your grits bet. Good luck to you on that one. Jack Attack saying appreciate it, Weezy. Catch you on the next one. Appreciate you, Jack Attack. Daz Fowl saying thanks, Weezy, in chat. Thank you, Daz. Jack Attack staying good, everybody. Stay good, my man. Appreciate it too. Saying see you, Weezy. Kawa's Sexy saying you're a very cool guy, Weezy. Belgium, big ups. Kawa's Sexy, big ups. Appreciate you hanging out. Roy C, thanks, Weezy. Good luck, everybody. Good luck to all you guys. Let's cash a bunch of tickets and stack them like flapjacks for this Saturday, UFC Vegas 44. I'll see you tonight at 10 o'clock Central Time for the Crute Hill Balls Deep breakdown. You guys have a great dinner tonight. We'll see you late night tonight for the next Balls Deep breakdown. You guys have a great night.